I'm not sure there's a lot of people who would associate Sherlock Holmes with spiritualism, unless maybe you're a deep, avid reader of those books.
I'm certainly not. I have a feeling you aren't either.
I am a big fan of the movies, that's for sure.
There you go. That's one step in.
Well, there's a little bit of a twist because the author of the Sherlock Holmes books spent a big part of his life investigating psychic and paranormal phenomena. So he was sort of a real-life spiritual detective.
I love that for him. It's like, write what you know? But I just picture him walking around with a big magnifying glass. So I didn't really know this. So I'm very excited.
Maybe that's how he found his first ghost. I don't know. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rituals, a Spotify original from Parcast. I'm Em Schultz.
And I'm Christine Schieffer. Every week, we'll explore the evolution of spiritualism and the occult through stories, practices, and the impact on modern culture.
So we are talking about Arthur Conan Doyle this week, and we actually have covered some of this era on our other podcast, and That's Why We Drink, when I covered Harry Houdini and his relationship
They were pals, right?
They were buds, and then they became frenemies.
Frenemies. I remember. I remember.
We even though I've talked about Houdini and everything on that podcast, we've never gotten into like the meat and potatoes of A.C.D. So very excited about that.
I'm sorry. Are we calling him A.C.D. now? Okay.
Sir A.C.D. Last I checked.
Sir A.C.D. Yeah. To you.
So let's crack into it. Christine, how familiar are you with Sherlock Holmes?
Well, like I said, I have this beautiful image in my mind's eye of a man with a cool floppy hat with a magnifying glass, kind of wandering around looking at stuff.
And if you did watch the movies, you know that his best friend is your favorite, Jude Law. So
yeah, Jude Law, I don't like to bring up in these shows anymore because most of the time everyone says I'm wrong, that he's not where I think he is. But I'm glad that you finally admitted Jude Law is in my mindscape here.
For those wondering, Jude Law seems to be in Christine's constant zeitgeist.
He is. He's everywhere.
She thinks she sees him everywhere. So I don't think that's true, but he is certainly, if you're looking at the Sherlock Holmes movies, he is there.
Well, the irony is I've never seen the movies, so I didn't even... I didn't even realize.
Well, you also were a private investigator, much like Sherlock Holmes.
True. Maybe that's where it like hits me right in the soul, But you're more familiar with A.C.D., right? A little bit?
I am. I'm very big on the spiritualist era of Houdini versus Arthur Conan Doyle when they have their big, I don't know if they have a battle royale, but in my head they do. But I really was a big fan of learning about mediums through them because they're very much enmeshed in spiritualist history, which is very fun for me. Have you experienced anything yourself with mediums or psychics?
Well, so actually this involves your girlfriend, Em, so maybe you'll be interested in one of my stories for once. No, so in DC, when we moved to DC, Allison and I were new roomies and we were exploring the area, and there was this psychic named, I think her name was Jessica. It just said like palm reader, Jessica.
Jessica the psychic. I love it.
You had to walk, it was in Georgetown. You had to walk up this really steep staircase. And I was like, let's do it. And Allison was like, I don't think that's a good use of our very limited money. And I was like, let's do it anyway. So we went, of course. And when we sat with the psychic, I remember being annoyed because I was like, oh, nothing she's saying is true. She said, wow, she was talking to Allison, was like, you are such a worldly, well-traveled person. And Allison looked at me like, I haven't really done much traveling. And I was like, I've traveled quite a bit, but like, whatever. And then she told me, she basically insinuated that my boyfriend and I were not a great match, which ultimately she was correct on that one.
Jessica, it took a little while to warm up, but she got there. Ding, ding, ding.
She did get there because she also said to us, oh, and you're living with someone, the initials JM will become very important to you. And I yelled, oh, Michael Jackson, because he had just died. And she was like, it's not Michael Jackson. First of all, I said JM. And second of all, like, this isn't about Michael Jackson. And I was like, wow, this lady's annoying. I was very frustrated. Well, it turns out Allison has like traveled the world, lived all over the world in different countries, speaks all sorts of languages, just very well traveled. I obviously got cheated on and dumped by that guy. So, she was Jessica. She called me out there. And we were roommates and we were like, that's weird. Why would we live with another person? Well, guess what? Our lovely university threw a third person into our 2-person dorm with the initials JM. And it didn't occur to me till months later. And Allison was like, remember that psych we went to? What did she say? And I was like, oh yeah. She said like JM was going to live with us or something. And lo and behold, it kind of hit me. So psychic Jessica, I'm sorry I, didn't believe you at first, but she kind of knew what she was talking about.
I was kind of hoping at the end you'd find out that Jessica's last name started with an M and she just comes home with you. She just comes home with you.
Not quite.
Well, I'm glad to hear that Jessica eventually swayed you into being a little bit more of a believer. And Arthur Conan Doyle was also swayed into being a believer eventually. So I have had quite a few paranormal experiences, as you know, as probably a lot of people who are listening know. I used to be an investigator. That was my college job. And it was a great gig. Instead of I don't know, being your normal barista, I got to go ghost hunting at night. But I've had a lot of ghost experiences ever since I was a little kid. I saw my grandpa when I was 7. You and I have had a lot of creepy stuff happen to us. We were in New Orleans one time, and there was this little boy named Michael who wouldn't, it was a ghost, not a living little boy. He wouldn't leave our hotel room, which once had been an orphanage.
Yeah, I have a bad habit, as Em likes to say, of booking the most haunted place imaginable just for fun.
For the whimsy.
For the whimsy of it. And we were in the room and I, anyway, it was very chaotic. But then we later found out that this was an orphanage or a former orphanage. And also we were on the 6th floor, which was the most haunted. So, of course, that's where Michael
It was like an orphanage that did it burn down? Something horrible happened.
Tragic, of course.
It was a bunch of children ghosts, and we had brought, I always feel like I'm carrying around some little piece of ghosty equipment when we're traveling because I know what Christine's going to put me through. So I'm like, I might as well be prepared.
You're like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. You're like, I'm going to do my own little mini seances no matter where I go.
Well, once someone keeps knocking on our door who isn't there and keeps messing with our electronics, I feel like it's high time. So
it's high time.
We've had that together. We've had Christine used to have a ghost in her old house named Walter.
I miss Walter.
That we talked to a few times. Your current house is certainly haunted. I felt that the entire time I was there.
Yeah, we've heard some voices. I feel like it's just like to an extent. I know A.C.D. seemed a little dramatic, but like I kind of get it to an extent,
Let's just say if A.C.D. and I were to have like a sit down at a coffee shop, I would certainly keep him entertained for a while. I think you would too. And fun fact, Mr. Arthur Conan Doyle and I actually have a little bit of a connection. We're colleagues. Did you know this?
Ooh, I'm sorry, what?
I don't know what the right word is.
At the coffee shop, baristas?
I don't know if it's like cohorts is the right or fellows. I don't know. But we are a part of quite a few of the same organizations, which I'll mention later on. Arthur Conan Doyle grew up in the 1860s to the 1870s with a mother who told him some very imaginative stories that he said were so vivid that it blurred his reality.
That sounds frightening because I have a child now and I feel like I'm going to, read books and tell stories, but like, what's the line? Like, where's the imaginative line where you're going to blur the reality of your child by telling him? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a very alarming sentence for some reason.
I think you'll only find out when it's too late, and maybe
you'll know it when you see it.
When your daughter becomes the next Arthur Conan Doyle.
Oh, okay.
But it does make sense. I mean, if he, was an author and he was always inspired by these, vivid stories in his head, it tracks, I think.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Do you think being more creative, like he was in the arts, and his family was also in the arts, do you think that might have lent him to be more open-minded about spiritualism and all that kind of stuff?
I would think so, right? I feel like it's the more left-brained folks tend to be more kind of visual, creative, that kind of thing, than, the more analytical people, I would say.
I think you have to have a dash of whimsy to
just a little sprinkle of whimsy.
Yeah. Well, that was what Doyle's parents were. They studied art. They expected their son to get into art, but he decided to take a sharp left turn and he went to medical school instead.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that is quite a turn.
He was like, enough art for me. So at medical school is when he actually started writing, which is kind of ironic.
Okay.
And that's where he met the professor who was his inspiration behind Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay. So his professor walked around with a big magnifying glass and a trench coat, and he was like, this guy is a character in the making.
Well, it also makes me think, I wonder if because if you throw the medical part in, it makes me think not just of Sherlock Holmes, but also of Watson, because he was a doctor who helped Sherlock Holmes, right?
I don't know. Is it Jude Law? Is that
it's Jude Law?
Shut up. Okay, I'm following now. I think I'm going to watch that after we record.
Also, it's not far of a stretch from what I imagine. Remember the TV show House?
Oh, yes. I also never watched that, but I remember it.
I feel like that was a doctor version of Sherlock Holmes also. So
yeah, solving mysteries on the daily. Yeah.
So it seems pretty fitting that, his real life, if you combine medical school with Sherlock Holmes' investigative tendencies, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So now Doyle got interested in faith and spirituality too, not just fiction. So he didn't really start writing about it until 1918, a couple decades after he started writing Sherlock Holmes, which I think that's like such a wild polar opposites, because he's now famous for this this guy who's all about rational, critical thinking. And now he's like skipping over to like faith-based writing.
This is really like striking a nerve here in a good way, because I feel like you said, I was the private investigator, you were the paranormal investigator. And I feel like that combo works really well. And that's kind of what he plotted out there in his little writing. It's like we're characters of A.C.D.
Also, talk about a range of writing, because you can go from scientific to whimsy at the drop of a hat. Look at him go.
He's so amazing.
But before his written work, he had gotten involved in some physical investigations. He was really into the possibility of psychic and paranormal phenomena. So
okay.
I wonder where that would have landed him today. Probably in the good graces, hopefully, of, maybe we'd be friends, I'd like to think.
I'd like to think we would want to be friends, and he'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, is what I picture. Like we'd make a great match. And he's like, maybe someday.
So I got to go write and go back to medical school, but have a good time over here.
I love it.
So before I go any further, is there anything you're hoping to hear about old A.C.D?
I was hoping to hear more about Jude Law, but I will focus on A.C.D. for this one. But I actually am very curious. Like you said, he was looking into the possibility of psychic and paranormal phenomena. Like, I want to know, did he find anything? Did he find it? Is there proof? Can I see it?
Coming up, Doyle sort of pioneered psychic research, but I'll let you judge whether he was actually a true believer. I mentioned that Arthur Conan Doyle really started writing about spiritualism in 1918. Mm-hmm. So that's also the year that his eldest son passed away. Oh. But Doyle says that wasn't actually part of the reason why he started writing about it. I personally feel like that's a pretty personal event that could get you writing. But if you think about it too, 1918 was right around that second big wave of spiritualism.
Sure.
So he might have just been influenced by everyone else around him to really look into it more seriously.
Yeah, I feel like the death of his son probably also didn't hurt his interest. Like, it probably at least fueled it. I mean, at least that's my opinion. I don't know.
I would imagine it gave him someone to try to reach out to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he said that he started digging into spiritualism way before his son died, and he often would point back to a letter that he wrote in 1887, way before his son died, where he published it to a spiritualist newspaper called Light. And in this letter he wrote, he basically told the story of how he became a spiritualist or a believer in it, because there was a medium. He had a series of mediums come to his house, but the thing that like really blew him away was he had one more powerful medium come to his house who told him, do not read this book. And unbeknownst to the medium, he had been wondering earlier that day if he should start that book or not. So that was that was the beginning for him. He was like, sold, signed, sealed, delivered.
Finally, answers to all my life's great questions.
I know. So whatever the official triggering event for the beginning of his faith was, he fully committed to studying faith and spiritualism around that time. And his specialty was psychic and paranormal phenomena. And he got down and dirty into physical investigations. He was very much, an OG ghost hunter.
Ooh la la. Okay. Tell me more, please.
So in 1887, Doyle started going to seances. He started watching telepathy experiments and spent time with mediums in Southsea, which is a resort area in England.
I'd love to spend some time with mediums in a resort area in England. That sounds like a fun vacation.
That sounds like my kind of party. Yeah, I just sit around, swap stories.
Some podcasters do like cruises, or some entertainers do like cruises. Like, why don't we just go to a resort and say, this is now an official business gathering?
And also a cruise. Yeah.
And also well, except without the boat and the cruise, because I don't want to be involved in that. But I'll lay on the beach. You can cruise around.
It'd be interesting if we decided we were going to do a cruise with a bunch of mediums and only one of them said, don't get on the ship.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say only one of them got on the ship. And I was like, I'm not getting on that ship then. But yeah, that's also a conundrum. That's why I'm on the beach. You can get on the ship all you want.
I'd be like, are you the most powerful one or the least powerful one? I'm confused.
Great question.
Anyway, that's whoever was hoping to write a mystery novel this year. Use that as your prompt.
I was going to say, this sounds like an A.C.D. original.
In his time, while he's getting into spiritualism, he also joins groups like the Ghost Club and the Society for Psychical Research, which I'm a part of both of them.
I knew you were part of the SPR. I don't remember the Ghost Club, though.
You know what's so funny? I think I have... Hang on a second. I have my hat right next to me.
Oh my goodness. Founded 1862.
I'm a big fan of joining these little clubbies. So... as for the SPR, which is probably the more popular one, it started in 1882 and it studies psychic and paranormal events. And they've researched like telepathy and mediums and thought transference and automatic writing. And they try to take it pretty seriously, scientifically. Mm-hmm. And they were best known originally around Arthur Conan Doyle's time for exposing fraudulent events. So that plays into the Harry Houdini mediumship stuff.
Right.
So, a lot of people ended up leaving the SPR because big believers in spiritualism originally were joining. And then when they found out that the SPR was trying to be very scientific and skeptical about this, they felt like including Arthur Conan Doyle, by the way, they ended up leaving because they felt like it was very anti-spiritualist.
Like ruining all the fun.
Yeah.
They're not invited to our cruise.
Exactly. And so then, but a lot of them, I don't know if because of that, they then switched over to the Ghost Club or if they were already part of the Ghost Club. But that is the oldest paranormal investigation organization to exist. So it's the world's oldest.
I love that they get that name, the Ghost Club.
If you're the first, you can call yourself whatever you want.
I love that. I love it.
And, just for anyone wondering, the main difference is the SPR is very scientific and skeptical, and the Ghost Club is pretty much, if you're a believer, that's like 100% of the membership, it seems.
You get a hat, too.
You get a hat. They still host a lot of social events. They still... I get invitations a lot to different paranormal investigations that they're doing.
Ooh.
And then they keep you updated. I mean, they have like monthly meetings where they tell you all about things that happened on these investigations, and they have lectures and all this stuff. So
fun.
Anyway, I love being a part of them. And if you want to join, go for it. They both have a pretty easy to navigate website. So cool. Arthur Conan Doyle was one of the members for both of those. And that got him into traveling around for investigations. So some of the spirits he worked with or researched, one was the Dorset child spirit. So some of the cases that Doyle got involved with, of them, this one is what pointed him to being a believer.
Okay.
So in 1894, Doyle and some others from the SPR were sent to Dorset in southern England. And there was a couple living there with their daughter who was hearing weird noises at night. And the noises that the daughter was hearing, it sounded like someone was being tortured.
Oh, no. What?
Trauma. So the dog wouldn't even come inside the house because of the sounds.
That's not a good sign, as we know.
Firm pass. Always trust animals. So while they were there, Doyle said they witnessed some strange phenomena in the house, but was weirdly vague about it.
Oh, no.
But they ended up actually finding out that there was a 10-year-old girl buried in the garden.
Oh, my God.
After the investigation, they properly laid her to rest. But it is creepy that their daughter, who might have been around the same age, was picking up on something.
Oh, no.
And so that was one of the cases that, I guess, convinced him further that spiritualism was worth looking into.
No offense, but that's more convincing than hey, don't read that book over there, in my opinion. I'm like, I get it. I get it.
And also it makes more sense why he would then start, writing about Sherlock Holmes, or at least have new plot points for Sherlock Holmes stories of oh, I was walking around and then in the garden we found a body.
The dog was acting fishy.
Mm-hmm. And there were other cases that proved why it's healthy to be skeptical. So in March 1919, when Doyle attended a seance in Bloomsbury, London, everyone showed up for this seance and they had to bring a personal item, and their items got locked up in this box before the medium even got there.
Oh, okay.
And the medium then held the locked box in her lap and described all of the items inside. I would have thrown a real wrench in the mix, just to
a literal wrench. You would have just put a literal wrench in the mix.
Something like a Furby, something creepy, just to see what would happen.
She's like, there's a full demon in this box. I can't understand it, but it says it's hungry.
I was going to say the Furby would out itself because you'd hear it through the box. And so their items got locked up. The medium described all the items inside, and she even read the faded inscription on a ring that someone had put in there.
Ooh.
So it sounds pretty convincing, but then especially because the medium, I think she was tied to a chair, the lights got turned down, and she apparently went into a trance.
Okay.
What pushes the envelope a little further is that then this mist materialized behind her into the shape of a woman.
Oh.
And it drifted around the room and then evaporated into a wall. So spoiler alert, at least what I assume is the spoiler alert, anytime we've ever covered mediumship and ectoplasm, it's usually a disgusting combination of egg whites and cheesecloth. So
disgusting.
And strings or something. So I'm guessing that's probably what it was. But Doyle was very impressed, and he was skeptical about the ghost, which good for him because it turned out that the entire thing was a hoax.
Oh boy. I mean, I guess I sort of saw that coming, but oh boy.
Yeah, especially if you're a fervent believer at a time when it's all the craze. So I feel like you really don't want your experience deflated at all.
No, and I do wonder, so how, we don't know, do we know how the hoax was perpetrated? I assume somebody knew all the items and was whispering them to this woman, or? I
think so. I don't know for sure, but that seemed to be another regular way that mediums were found out, is there was usually a plant in the audience. So another way that there was some fraudulent activity being exposed was through spirit photography. So spirit photography was basically finding spirits in pictures. And I think a lot of ways that this was usually exposed, which is a play on words, is that people found out that there were double exposures in the frames later.
So you could sort of layer a picture, right? Okay.
So it would look like there was someone else in the picture with you. And he was shown these pictures and how they could be fake to have ghosts in them, but he was a staunch believer in spirit photography. This was this was a big turning point for him in Houdini's friendship. This was a big turning point for him in the SPR. This was a big turning point for him in spiritualism in general. He was very pro spirit photography, even though people were showing him cold hard facts. He was nope, it's real. So that was a big thing for him.
I feel like it's one thing to have an open mind and believe that things are stranger than they appear, but to be shown hard evidence and then not believe it, it almost takes away from your own argument. I feel like how can you defend, your argument if you're not even believing, if you believe literally everything is
he
a
was
ghost.
Also he was doubling down for sure. I mean, even his own friend Houdini, who was I'm an illusionist. I'm showing you the illusions that are happening.
Do you think he just wanted to believe it that badly that he like closed his, because I mean, I think that's kind of close-minded to like, not even acknowledge that it could be faked.
I wonder what the numbers looked like back then when spiritualism was hot and heavy. I wonder what the numbers looked like for people who were just desperate for it to be true so that they knew that they were actually talking to someone on the other side that mattered to them. So maybe he thought, if I accept the part of it's not true, then maybe I'm not talking to my son. I don't know.
And then you add doubt to the mix, and maybe that was just something he wasn't willing to do. Yeah, that's surprising to me, just that he was such a smart guy and so unwilling to accept that like he was being sometimes taken advantage of.
You would think if he's channeling Sherlock Holmes, like he would like at least have a little bit of an analytical opinion.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, here's where you find out that he's getting encouragement to be very pro-spiritualism. Is Arthur Conan Doyle's wife, Jean, was a self-proclaimed medium. So,
okay.
And it seems like, and I don't want to poo-poo on actual, real mediums out there, but Jean, it seemed like she was playing a game.
Okay, well, to be fair, if I married this guy and he was like, I believe everything, I'd be like, let's play with that. I'd be like, okay, I can tell the future. You're going to take me to that cool beachside resort town in England. I see it in my mind's eye.
You want to know what's so funny? Is so Jean, the self-proclaimed medium, was using a spirit, was a vessel for a spirit. I don't totally remember what the right phrasing is, but she relied on a spirit guide called Phineas.
Oh.
And very often it seemed like Phineas was speaking for Jean on what Jean might want.
So, he just had her interests at heart. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, it always seemed like Jean and Phineas agreed on a lot of stuff.
On what to have for dinner, where to go on vacation.
That beachside resort. And so the Doyles actually also moved houses and changed travel plans a lot after consulting with Phineas. So I feel like Jean...
She's a smart cookie is what she is.
She was like, if you're going to make it this easy, Mr. A.C.D., we're going to do this. So, like I've mentioned a million times already, Doyle was also friends with Harry Houdini, the magician and escape artist. And their friendship was done after Houdini went to a seance where Doyle's wife claims to be channeling Harry Houdini's mother.
What?
And Harry Houdini and his mother were very, very, very close.
Kind of messed up.
Interestingly, it was what got him into spiritualism because he was desperate to find a way to communicate with his mom. And so when Arthur Conan Doyle's wife said, I can channel her for you, she ended up writing down messages in English claiming that Houdini's mother was sending them to her. But Houdini's mother was an immigrant from Hungary who did not speak English very well. And so he was like, your wife is tricking me. I'm out. And that was the beginning of Houdini's whole story with spiritualism.
Wow. Okay. So I called her a smart cookie. She can't be that smart of a cookie. Didn't even do her research.
Don't do it to like someone whose whole job is knowing tricks up your sleeve, Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a little unethical in my mind to do. It just seems
very unethical.
Yeah. Not very nice.
So what do you think? Do you think she was a real medium, or do you think she just wanted to be part of the craze?
I don't think she was. Here's the thing. I feel like people have abilities. I do believe in psychic mediums, absolutely. But I feel like especially at this time, it was so normalized. I think we were talking about this recently. It was so normalized back then to just be able to communicate with spirits. And I think a lot of people took advantage of that. And you know what? I don't think everyone necessarily did it out of like a, some sort of immoral viewpoint or angle, but maybe
to fit in,
or like really believed they could do it. Like really said, I could channel, like maybe they really thought they were onto something, but it was all in their heads. I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no about this, but I think, but as far as it goes with like channeling Houdini's mother, I think Jean was full of baloney.
I too am team baloney, I think. Up next, I'll take you on Arthur Conan Doyle's final spiritual journey, and Christine and I will share what we believe when it comes to psychic phenomena. So during Arthur Conan Doyle's life, he wrote 13 books on spiritualism, including a book called The New Revelation in 1918, and then a book called The Vital Message a year later, in which he related his personal belief in the movement.
Okay.
And in 1926, he wrote a 2-volume work called The History of Spiritualism. He had a lot to say.
My gosh.
And he complained about spiritualism's critics, in particular those who considered themselves scientists.
Well, if someone gave me a pen and said, complain about something, I could probably also write a 2-volume book. But so it's not that impressive. But all right, good for him.
I feel like all my family, that could be a real family reunion experience. We each get one page and just complain. And it would still be
Oh my God.
one chapter. I don't know. It'd still be an encyclopedia by the end of it all.
Absolutely.
He also served as a president of 3 psychic societies, and he founded a psychic bookstore and a psychic museum, which I feel like he's just living out my dream at that point. He also wrote hundreds of newspaper and magazine articles, usually summarizing the beliefs and practices of spiritualists and defending spiritualism. And he spent a lot of time and money traveling the world to promote and investigate. Again, it doesn't sound like a bad life.
I know. He's really, so it's like the cycle, like he's writing about these things to make money, to keep traveling, to experience.
Actually, so funny that you mentioned that, because he actually wanted to give up writing Sherlock Holmes altogether and just focus on spiritualism. But his Sherlock Holmes books did so much better that at one point he tried to kill off Sherlock Holmes in one of his books.
What?
Just so he would have a reason to stop writing them and focus solely on spiritualism. But then he wrote another book and brought him back to life because he realized he needed the money to fund all of his spiritualism work.
So what you're telling me is Sherlock Holmes was a ghost in the end. I feel like that's kind of a plot twist that he would have loved.
Honestly, it was a nice little a hand holding, a perfect little Venn diagram, I guess. So as for Doyle's last investigation, in the fall of 1929, Arthur Conan Doyle was experiencing chest pains.
Oh, no.
But he ignored his doctor's advice and went on a spiritualism tour, which I think is ironic because wouldn't one of those spiritualists have been like, hey, you should actually go talk to that doctor?
She's like, don't read that book, but please go to the emergency room.
Don't read that book, but definitely come on tour with us and avoid the hospital.
Oh, no.
So when he got back, the pains got worse. And on July 7th, 1930, Arthur Conan Doyle died of a heart attack after collapsing in his garden in Crowborough, England.
Oh, no.
So we don't know how Sherlock Holmes was supposed to end, but we know what his opinion on spiritualism was until the end, at the very least.
Wow. I wonder if he is now a ghost. I wonder if he haunts anywhere.
It'd be really ironic if he wasn't one, but like all the non-believers were ghosts.
Like Houdini is a ghost and Sherlock Holmes isn't.
Yeah.
A little plot twist for you.
I have a hunch Sherlock Holmes is not actually a ghost, but I wonder.
I meant A.C.D. Listen, in my head, they get confused.
Will Jude Law be a ghost is the real question.
Jude Law will be most places where I am, so probably.
Well, at least you'll manifest him to be there. One day when he is a ghost, he'll keep bumping into you and he'll be like, what did I do to cause this? Christine, after everything I've said so far, where do you stand on, do you think he was fully committed 100% to this? Or do you think maybe he was there for, we've said the word a lot, but maybe he was there for the whimsy. Maybe he liked the theatrics of it all.
The theatric, I lean toward, I think he really believed it. And I think
Me too.
You too? I think that goes hand in hand with the theatrics. It's almost like that drew him in and it like kept him there.
It's very alluring to have something so fantastical also be something you could very much believe in. I think he was 100% on board because, I mean, he left the SPR when he felt questioned for being a believer. Mm-hmm. His friendship with Houdini was rocky over their differences. As far as I know, they were really close and he was willing to let that go. He didn't want to be known for his like very famous literary works, and he tried to like even like remove himself from that world and focus on spiritualism. He was all hands on deck as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's like actions speak louder than words, and he was acting like 110% of a believer.
That's exactly it. Meanwhile, over here, well, I would say, how do I put this? I would say I would be in the same camp as A.C.D. I think it's well documented that I'm a fervent believer in just about anything. There's some more outrageous fringe things that I have been able to build a wall up against. Yeah. But in terms of basic supernatural stuff of spirits or mediums or anything like that, I'm fully invested through and through. Also love the theatrics of it. I think you balance me out pretty well, though, Christine.
Oh, well, I would like to also be clear to you, Em, that I would never sacrifice our friendship like a Houdini and an A.C.D. just because of any ghostly differences. But that being said, I think I'm more of a believer than Houdini was. I think I am more skeptical. I mean, a good example is like when we were in that hotel room in New Orleans and the knocking kept happening. I was convinced, I'm still slightly convinced, maybe it was you or Eva or somebody. There was nobody there. But the second the knock happened, even if it were Eva, you were like, that's a ghost child. There's no denying it whatsoever. And I feel not
that we're currently sleeping in a building of hundreds of other families, but you know what? And I say that sarcastically, but also in truth, like it was a ghost. It was a ghost.
So I think you are definitely more like 100% jump right in. And you usually take me with you.
Happily. Dragging, kicking and screaming. Yeah. So with all of the organizations I did mention earlier, first of all, it wouldn't hurt if there was an organization based around me. But since this episode's about Arthur Conan Doyle, what do we think about there being like a society, a high society of...
We could call it ACDC, and the last word is just club. It's just an ACD club.
Oh my God, it just happened. Wow. And just like that. Okay, never mind. Like I don't need my own club. I just want to join this one.
But I think maybe some lawyer somewhere is like, you can't say that.
I think it's AC/DC's lawyer, to be clear. No, I think there should. I think
he
there should be
it, right. Like he put enough time and money and energy into this whole field.
He's certainly one of the people I look to the most. Honestly, what I think about like a paranormal or psychical group like the Ghost Club or the SPR, I think it's time for there to be a new version, like the next generation.
A modern day. Okay.
Which is why I think I should be the face of it if we're asking for things. But
okay, maybe you and sir. You don't have a sir before your name. I don't know that. Like,
let's figure that out. Weight. How do we get knighted as fast as possible?
That's the next step, I think. First, and then we'll create your new wave club.
I think so. You're onto something there.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.
Information on today's episode came from Biography, The Ghost Club, A History by Peter Underwood, The Vintage News, BBC, The Guardian, and the academic article Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Spiritualism and New Religions by Michael W. Homer.
Remember to follow Rituals on Spotify to get a brand new episode every week. And you can listen to this and all other episodes of Rituals for free exclusively on Spotify.
And if you like this show, follow @Parcast on Facebook and Instagram and @Parcast Network on Twitter.
You can follow me at XTeenSchiefer. That's XTINESCHIEFER.
And you can find me at The M Schultz, TheEmSchulz. Thanks again for listening. See you next week. Rituals is executive produced by Max Cutler and is a Spotify original from Parcast. It was created by Max Cutler.
Sound design by Kristen Acevedo.
Fact-checking by Cara McErling.
Research by Chelsea Wood.
It's produced by Kristen Acevedo and Jonathan Ratliff, with production assistance by Ron Shapiro.
We're your hosts, Christine Schiefer and M. Schultz.